Okay, in this video we will continue with the adjuster block and we will resume where the last video left off. So we just created or opened up a drawing file. I just have to now add the title block. And what makes this part a little bit unique is, I'll show you. So when we go ahead and do our base view, that should be probably our front view, and then you might project it. An issue that I have is that when you look at the top view, you're not really getting a very good image of what's going on right here, right? Because you see this ramp. Well, we know it's a ramp, but looking at the top view by itself, you would never know what that was. So this is a pretty inferior way to demonstrate that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that view. Instead, we want to do what's called an auxiliary view. And an auxiliary view creates a projected view perpendicular to a face that you select. So I'm going to click auxiliary view and then look at what it says. Select the view, select the edge you want to project. I'm going to select the ramp, and that gives me a much nicer look of where the ramp actually lines up with the part. So I'm going to then give it some center lines, I think, or in center marks. You can use the bisector for a few. There is a center line right here, as well as one right here. And this can get a little tricky. Let's be a little careful to make sure that we do it correctly. These two and these two are. Okay. So now when we go to dimension it, I'll just do a random line for a second. Now that looks a little bit off from what we are familiar with, right? We are used to there being no decimal places and all the text being perfectly horizontal. And the reason why it's not coming up that way this time is because we are in metric, and metric has its own standards associated with it by default. We are actually going to adjust the default standards to kind of be more similar to what we've done in the past. So to adjust the standards, you're going to have to go over to Manage, Styles Editor. You can go over to Dimension, hit the little plus. I don't know why, there we go. Default mm, that's what we're dealing with, the default for millimeters. And over here you can kind of see what the default standards are. And for precision, for the units, let's make it 0, right? I don't want any in that instance. And if we do have one or two that are different from the rest, we can always override it. For display, there's text, there's tolerance. So we'll look at text now. Orientation has to do with the direction that the text reads. So we're going to adjust all of these. There are 3 types of dimensions that we can do. There are horizontal dimensions, there are vertical dimensions, and then there are aligned dimensions for when you have something at an angle that's not perfectly along an axis. For all 3 instances, it does not matter the type of dimension we have. We want the text to be perfectly horizontal regardless. So for the dropdown for all of these, you can kind of see where the X is showing is where the text would read. So for horizontal, we want it to be in line. For aligned, we want the text to be horizontal in line. The X's are kind of showing you the direction of the text. I don't know if you can really see that in the video. Same with vertical, you want it to be in line as well. And we can save and close, and if we miss anything, then we can always adjust it later. And look, now our 72 is much prettier. To do other dimensions, I just want to show you a few things. say I want to dimension this right here. I'm going to go from point A to point B. Now, in that instance, it did give me the 48. There are some times when it doesn't give you the dimension that you want. And if that ever happens, you can right click and do dimension type and then do oh, that's not what I wanted. Maybe they got rid of it. Last time, like there were instances where it would give you like the vertical distance in between and you had to tell it that you wanted it to be aligned. But yeah, looks like they kind of fixed that problem. All right, disregard my last few seconds of talking. Just showing you how to do some dimensions because I'm actually not going to give you the solutions for this one. I want to see if you guys could figure out how to do all the dimensions yourself. I will, however, show you a few other things. Sometimes you want to be able to annotate or add notes to your drawing. So if you ever need to add notes, you're just going to go to text and then click. And then a text dialog box will appear. And we always want to make sure that we are in all caps. So have your caps lock on. Just remember to turn caps lock off if you're sending an email, lest you feel or appear like an angry person. So for notes, you're just going to type in notes and then make it look pretty, right? And then you're going to have like note number 1, put a little period next to it. And whenever you have a note, there are some rules you want to follow. You always want it to be neat and organized. You want it to be in all caps. And if you ever have a number, you actually want to type out the number. So you wouldn't say 1 required, for example, right? So say the note was like, oh, you need 1 of these. You wouldn't write the number 1. You would type it out, 1 required. It just makes it less confusing. So looking at the drawing on the other sheet, it does say 1 required, so we're going to make that one of the notes, and we're going to leave it like that, and we're going to have the second note say cold rolled steel, or CRS, either way. And then we have another thing where it says FAO. That's going to be our third note, which stands for finish all over, regarding the degree of almost like how much you sand it. I like to have my notes in the corner, so I'm going to hit escape and then move it. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is just how to adjust the title block. Actually, there's one more thing beyond that. So now I'm going to show you how to add text to the title block. Some of you have kind of figured it out. I don't think it's very difficult, but here's how I want it done. Over here, where it says ANSI A under the sheet, is where this title block has been imported into the project. If you expand it, it tells you field text, which is where you're going to populate the individual components of the title block. So field text, and I don't know why, but like you can't just type right here. I feel like you should be able to, but they didn't ask my opinion. So you're going to have to go over here, which is actually iProperties. And then these tabs over here will allow you to type and have it be populated over here. So for title, we'll call this title of the project. Again, make sure you are in all caps. Adjuster block. And now you can see it over here. I'm trying to think of which ones I want. I'm going to hold off on telling you which ones I want right now because I want to think it through and not do it on the fly. So I'm going to create a separate video just where I'm showing you how I want the title blocks completed. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how to do the angle over here, right? Because if I go to dimension this, and it says 40.5 degrees, which is accurate, but we wanted to say 40 degrees, 30 minutes. So you might be tempted to right click and then look at precision, but that only gives you in terms of how many decimal places. Doesn't actually solve what I need. So I'm going to go back to my manage styles. And where we have angular angles over here, the format currently is decimal and degrees. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to change it to degrees, minutes, seconds. And the precision is just degrees and minutes, right? I don't have any seconds, so I'm going to leave it like that. And now it's 40 degrees, 30 minutes. Again, guys, I am going to have a separate video where I'm showing you what information I want on the title block. And for this part, I am not going to show you the finished product. I want you guys to finish fully dimensioning it for me. Okay, that concludes the adjuster block.